Alien Confidential, hosted by Tony Topping. He's the paranormal 007, you know, and I am his Miss Moneypenny.
Well, this is Alien Confidential. We're back again. My name's Tony Topping. We've got a very special guest with us tonight. Bless her dear heart. She's just feeling under the weather, but she's that committed to her work. She's decided to come on the show. And I met her a few years ago, actually, at a conference. And she's a top researcher, a very nice lady. Paola Harris is our guest this evening, and she's moved to the US. She was in Italy, sorry, and she moved to the US. So really, it's probably about 9 to 10 years since I last saw you. And she's written this book called Trinity, which is, what's the full title of it, Paola? Trinity, the UFO Secret?
No, and by the way, it's Jacques Vallée and Paola Harris, so it isn't that I wrote it. Both of us wrote it, and it's called The Best Kept Secret.
That's it, yes. It's hard evidence. Say again, Louis.
So it's called The Best Kept Secret because this crash happened in 1945, 1 month after the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
Okay, so the atomic bomb was tested at White Sands at Stallion site near Socorro on July 16th, and this crash happened August 18th. So 1 month, almost to the day, something strange happened. Where two little Hispanic boys, 1 9 and 1 7, saw the craft come in over their head. There was a thunderstorm. They saw it go on the land and make an L turn, and it stopped. It did not disintegrate. So these boys were present at the crash, which is a whole other world, you know, because usually, like Roswell, there's just a debris field. You don't know anybody that was there. Nobody saw anything. These little boys were there for 2 hours and saw the beings and had binoculars. So the account in this book is incredible. And when I got to them, they were 80 years old, in their 80s. Jose is now, I think, 84. And Remy has passed on, but I've been able to talk to Remy because I flew to his house in 2009. So Remy was a 6-year-old, Jose was a 9-year-old. And this story is amazing because we believe, Jacques and I, that this was the first UFO crash where the Army Air Force had to put in place some protocols to do crash retrieval, and it took 7 days.
I'm speechless. You've left me speechless, Paola. The question that springs to mind, it took 7 days. These two lads witnessed it. One of the questions I wanted to know about this was, why was it hidden for so long, unlike Roswell for all to see? What's going on there?
Well, first of all, it is not in the Air Force files. It is not in the government files because Remy, who worked with the governor of Washington State, was very close to her. She was part of the Atomic Energy Commission. He found out that the case had been in the Atomic Energy files. Now, the Atomic Energy files are the only files that do not go to the president automatically.
Right.
So when this happened, because it was so close to the atomic bomb, probably the craft went to Los Alamos and the case went to the Atomic Energy Commission. So the little boys that didn't know what a UFO was, because we didn't have Kenneth Arnold yet. That was 1947. They didn't see TV. They never saw a magazine. Didn't know what the heck they were looking at. And what it was an avocado-shaped craft that, had a panel missing from it. And they saw 3 little beings with big heads that they called the little men. And they had nothing to compare it to. And there was no cleanup crew there. The only crew that could have cleaned that up were the young boys that had worked on the Manhattan Project. And they were like 20-year-old guys that were like the grunts that had worked on Bomb. And that's all they had to clean it up. So the boys told me that they were watching these young guys, picking up pieces, playing country music. The Jeeps were parked. They didn't even have hazmat suits. So there was nothing in place to clean this up. Then they had to get an 18-wheeler, put the craft sideways so it'd go under the underpass there on Route 25 to go out. But they went to the owner of the land, who was one of the boys' father. He was Jose Padilla's dad. And they said, we have to cut your gate because we're taking out this weather balloon. And the father said, well, can't you just take it where the cattle guard is, which is 6 feet? And they said, no, it's much bigger. And the father knew they were lying because the father and the young boy, the 9-year-old, had a bunch of weather balloons they had gathered on their 80,000 acres. So they proceeded to give them back to the Army Air Force. They said, here, take these back. They knew that wasn't a weather balloon.
Yes, the question that springs to mind, just reflecting on what you said, was the bit where you said that they turned up on scene. And you said that there was music playing, and did I hear that correctly? It sounded like they didn't really know what they're doing, and it was all very relaxed. Was anybody, do you think, expecting it to turn up?
No, I don't think the boys knew what they were cleaning up either.
Yeah.
I mean, what we've got to look at is that the little boys were very mischievous. So they were on the arroyo, they were like behind one of those little hills watching the cleanup, because in the back of their little minds, they're waiting for an opportunity to jump inside the craft and take a souvenir, because that's how they think. So they're watching the whole 7 days, and the young boys that are cleaning it up, in fact, at a certain point, they're sick of it. They're playing country music, was relaxed because they don't know what they're cleaning up. There were there's no beings inside, so they don't know what it is. Yeah. And so they made this like little berm, and with their feet, they would throw in some pieces. So the boys remembered that they didn't pick up every piece. And I've been to that location with Jacques Vallée at least 10 times with Jacques, and at least another 8 or 9 times by myself. So that is a very precise spot where that thing stopped.
Is it so? Is the what is the difference then in the narrative that you're talking about between the beings that were recovered at Roswell and what was going on with this incident? Same ETs, different ETs? We don't know.
Well, the boys called them little men. They had teardrop-shaped eyes, a big head, long arms. And the boys saw them alive. The boys said they were like moving back and forth. There were 3 of them. And Jose, the older boy, thought they were hurt because there was like they were screeching like a crying baby. And so Jose wanted to go in and help them. But Remy, who was 7 years old, because of the, everything caught on fire, all the mesquite and all the bushes, he didn't want to go, and he started to cry. So Jose didn't go in, but those 2 boys with their binoculars watched these, what they call little men, these 3 little men for at least an hour. And during that time, Jacques and I come to the conclusion there was some psychic communication going on back and forth. And Roswell, we don't know, because nobody knows for sure, because Roswell is mostly stories. I don't know if there's any photos or, Colonel Corso said there were some clones, extraterrestrial biological entities. And you know that I was close to Colonel Corso. he said they were like, artificial intelligence clones that were used to fly the ship. Well, maybe that happened too, 2 years before. What you do have to ask, Tony, is what was that ship doing there?
Yes, yes, you do. And I think the more important question is, where did that whole circus go to form what it is today under the smokescreen radar of so-called disclosure mood music that is playing at the moment? Would you understand what I said by that?
Yeah, it is a circus. And when I moved back to the United States, that's all it was.
Yeah.
And one of the problems I've had, I said to the boys, did you ever talk to anybody before me? And They said, well, we trust you, but we did go to Stanton Friedman and he just wasn't interested. Well,
right.
Of course he wasn't, because his whole life was Roswell. Why in the world would he look at something else? I mean, and the person that did do the work is Timothy Good. Because his case is in Timothy Good's book. I don't know. I think it's above top secret. I'm not sure. But Timothy Good actually flew to the United States and spoke to the 7-year-old in Washington State. He also got a piece of the metal because the older boy, the 9-year-old, did go in and pull something off the wall, something substantial that looks like a handle. So Timothy Good wanted, he wanted a sample. And Timothy Good is a field researcher. He's excellent. So he did go to Washington State to the house of the younger one who was 7. And he did get a piece of the metal. He had an analyzer.
Wow. Just for the listeners, Paola. So that was Timothy Good in his book, Above Top Secret. And did I hear that right? And he was onto this.
He certainly was before anybody. And I don't know if that's the book it's on, but in our book, Trinity, we quote him. So it's in the back what book it's in. And we quote him, and we quote Ryan Wood, who has a book called Magic Eyes Only that has 93 crashes from all over the world. 93. And he quoted this case. He quoted it.
Yeah, indeed. For the listeners, let me recap for the listeners, Paola. Listeners may not know that Paola has extensively liaised with a man called Colonel Philip Corso. Just basically from the listeners, and I'm sure that you will expand further, but basically there was the story that Colonel Corso and the Roswell UFO crash is linked to the back-engineered technology we see today in transistors, televisions, and computer systems. The story goes that it is linked to the Roswell crash. I'm sure Paola will educate me and others into what that's really all about. My question is, this crash that you're talking about, how does it link into the jigsaw puzzle of the technological acquisition status that Corso was involved in?
Tony, that's a really good question, because when you have a crash like this in San Antonio, New Mexico, it's only 20 miles from where the bomb exploded. It's near Socorro. You're not going to throw everything away. I mean, that would be stupid. You're not going to take the craft, throw it away, and everything. So at that time, there was the Army Air Force. The Army Air Force was together. So maybe the Air Force got some materials. Colonel Corso didn't get the artifacts that he says were from Roswell until 1960. He worked in research and development during the Kennedy administration, and he was working for the Army.
May I just come in there, Paola? That's very important just for the listeners, and it shocked me then. I didn't realise that. So Roswell crash 47, all the electronic back-engineered stuff, allegedly, he waited until 1960 to see all that. What was the...
General Trudeau waited until 1960 to give it to him, but we don't know what was given to the Air Force.
Right. Okay, please carry on.
Yeah, because we don't know what... I mean, they were together in 1945. This crash happened in 1945. So, I mean, they're not going to throw the stuff away. So who got it? We don't know who got it. It was close to Los Alamos Labs. Colonel Corso was the whistleblower that talked about what was going on because he wrote the book the day after Roswell, but he was never at Roswell. Colonel Corso worked at the Pentagon on research and development in 1960. So in 60, he gets this bunch of fiber optics and, night screening devices and everything from the Roswell crash. That's pretty late. That's like almost 20 years later for the benefit of the Army. Because today, even you're watching what's happening. The Army, the Air Force, and the Navy are all bidding for contracts, for government contracts. So Colonel Corso is a hero because he said, I did it to make the competitive edge of the Army competitive. He didn't do it for the Air Force or the Navy. So all of those guys must have something. And I didn't understand until I was with Colonel Corso and I brought him to Italy and had his book translated. I wrote the preface for The Day After Roswell in Italian. I didn't understand that the secret is a secret because it's a technology. I thought it was a secret because it would scare everybody. I thought it was a secret because it was against religion or something. I thought it was a secret because people would panic. But I didn't realize that in the end, and people need to understand this, if there is a government disclosure, it has an agenda to it because all they're interested in is the technology. They don't care about who's inside, where they come from, where we come from. No, they need something to boost the economy. And what's coming out of Washington now, unfortunately, makes it look like there's, a craft invading our airspace and they're enemies, and we need to develop exotic weapons to go after them. Well, tell me, in 1945, what's more exotic than the atom bomb? I mean, if they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it back then.
They would have done, Paola. I mean, there's the incident, the Tic Tac incident with the Nimitz UFO group, with the carrier group there. Those UFOs are quite capable of powering that carrier off and just making it in the sea powerless. Aren't they? They're capable, these UFOs, of doing that, of just making that ship, the whole battle group with the electronics off, just sat like lame ducks in the sea. They're capable of doing it, but they didn't. But my suspicion is, and you're a very experienced researcher, my suspicion is that there's some missing jigsaw piece between these UFO crashes and the blocks to disclosure that we're seeing, which I believe is ET controlled, in my opinion. There is an alien element that is controlling the information to humanity of what we see. Would you agree with that?
Well, I like that theory. It's a theory. I like it. I remember asking Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, I was very close to him, Apollo 14. I said, do you think humanity is ready for disclosure? He said, absolutely not. He said, absolutely not. He said, when they get together as one species, that's when they'll find out what the real story is. And I said, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. And he said, if there is an ET component, like where are they going to go to Russia? Are they going to go to China? Are they going to go to the United States? This planet is divided. It's divided in an agenda and an economy that's based on war. And like what's his name? Werner von Braun said, the last card that may be played, and this is credit to Carol Rosin, who knew him very well, is the ET card, that's the common enemy. So now we have to build exotic weapons, and build the economy up to go after ETs. And then we also have to watch that we don't bring these weapons into outer space.
Yeah. Yes, I do understand. I do understand that. It appears in the book that I'm writing at the moment that there's something that happened whereby, if I put this scenario to you, currently we have a controlling force that is controlling disclosure and narrative. I do believe that there is a controlled narrative running in the media that we do not know what they are, is the buzzword. We do not know what they are. I do believe, however, that they do know what they are, and of course they do. But I also believe that it's like an information fascism. I do believe that with these ETs, and some of them are evolved, Paola, I believe that there will be a new beginning here that steps out of this control mechanism where let's say the US governments and others begin to learn that it's more jaw than war with them. Am I on the right track there?
Yes, I think so. I think that what can happen here is that In fact, you've thought about this. I can tell you've thought about this a lot.
I'm a contact experiencer, Paola, with ET, and I've seen too much, actually. But that's how I've come to these conclusions. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there is a control media.
Yeah.
I do believe when we have people like Senator Harry Reid and Marco Rubio in the government going and asking for a report, there is an agenda having to do with some kind of creation of weaponry or exotic weaponry for self-defense and national security. However, I don't believe that ETs work with governments. They're too smart. They don't pick a government and go work with them. What they do is play cat and mouse. So all that stuff around the Tic Tac and all that stuff, even probably in Russia that you don't know about, and other countries that you don't know about, is cat and mouse. Here we are, here we not, here we are not. Here we are, here we are not. So you never get the real story. You don't get what they convey. It's more like, look at us, we're here. That's it.
The question must be raised as to why they are so elusive and secretive at many levels. And this question must be raised. And I do believe that there is, and the American government are maybe stuck in the middle of this, there is a Cold War going on between the equivalent of alien Russia and alien NATO. There's like a Cold War going on between them. I think that the Greys have a lot to do with this. I'm trying to get into the missing jigsaw piece of where it went after Roswell to cause this. And to me, it kind of like it's odd in the extreme that this is all going on when behind the scenes something non-human is controlling it, and that hence the alien Cold War that we see. But back to the Trinity one.
But wait a minute, Tony. I've done so much work all over the world. Now I only work in Latin America. Yes. The aliens don't have any stake in this planet. I don't believe that. First of all, those things are artificial intelligence. They don't have a mind of their own.
Yes.
And Colonel Corso told me that he wasn't so worried about the little clone gray things. They're just things. They're artificial intelligence. He was worried about the ones that created them. He said, whatever race created these things, knew that they couldn't travel in space, so they created artificial intelligence, which we probably are doing too, because we can't travel in space. So I don't think they picked two countries. I mean, I don't think that there is an ET consciousness that has to do with separate countries. I don't believe you go to another planet and they've separated all their countries and all their governments. First of all, Jacques Vallée is really a genius. He wrote a book called Messengers of Deception, which people should read. Yes, should read. And then I've asked him about these sightings. I've asked him about these things, and he said, Paula, it's not cut and dry that they're interplanetary. He said, it could be a manifestation of consciousness that wants humanity to grow up. So it shows up every once in a while because it's trying to teach us something. That's what, and he's a genius. I mean, talking to him is like, he's 83 now, and he said, I'm convinced, he said, it's a manifestation of consciousness. He said, we interpret it a certain way because we're human, and that's the only way we can do it. He said, but it's so much greater. And he's right. We're still in elementary school, Tony. Do you think we're in grad school?
Sorry, did I what, Paola?
Do you think we're in graduate school, or do you think we're in elementary school?
Oh, I think that history will. I think that history will prove that we will go into graduate school and we will emerge into the galactic community. But it's going to be many, many years, hundreds of years from now. It's not instant. It really isn't. And I think there's a lot of skullduggery going on behind the scenes in terms of unacknowledged black projects, to which some of us who are contact experiencers, if I may voice my opinion, have been illegally persecuted by that element because we've had contact with ETs that are, let us say, highly intelligent, very evolved. But there is, as Jacques Valise rightly says, there is this consciousness, kind of very dark consciousness that seems to rule over human affairs. Just can't nail it. Just can't quite nail it down,
He
Paola.
doesn't look at it as dark. He does not. Neither do
No.
I.
No.
It's not dark, but what he said, the phenomenon itself is deceptive.
Yes.
In other words, the phenomenon, in other words, you're looking at a bunch of Tic Tacs and they don't do anything.
Yes.
That's deceptive. I mean, what are they doing there? They're doing nothing. They're flying around like they're having fun. That's the part, the messengers of deception. He's looking at it that way.
Yes.
And like, I hope I have the book right. I think it is called the Messengers.
Yes. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, no, that's definitely the one.
He's been trying to figure it out for a long time, but he has come to the conclusion it is not negative, that the phenomenon is not negative. It's just a mystery. It's so complicated. But I will tell you something about Trinity, that what fell was not a flying saucer. It was an avocado ovoid, and it looked like the casing of the atomic bomb.
Just rewind there for the listeners, because that sounded absolutely fascinating. Would you just repeat that again, what you just said there?
What fell and what had the accident was an ovoid. It looked like an avocado egg.
Yep.
It looked like the casing of the atomic bomb. And it had three beings and it had a little dome. So it was just like saying to humanity, oh yeah, look what you did. We're doing the same thing. And because he's got the picture, he's got the drawings in the book of I think it's Fat Boy and is it?
Yeah, the bombs.
John Paul and Fat Boy. I mean, the Fermi was there, Oppenheimer was there, and we started the atomic age. And you can't put the genie back in the bottle, Tony. You can't uninvent nuclear.
No,
you can't uninvent it. And we could have destroyed ourselves, I don't know how many times with this. And I think what everyone was watching said, and it was like a gift. Oh yeah, you guys just did this? Well, look at what this means. We're watching you. This really affects the planet. And I always say that it's a chess game. Nuclear, you have a bomb, we have a bomb, the atomic bomb was not even as powerful as the hydrogen bomb. I mean, you want to go even farther? True. I mean, and so the only way you win that is checkmate.
Yes.
So all of our lives, not to destroy ourselves, we have to play checkmate.
Yes. Yes. So do you believe, so just nailing it down there for the listeners, where do you believe the Trinity crash originated from?
I think it was a type of consciousness. I know that's hard for people to understand.
No.
It was a message. It was a message. It was, look, whatever you guys do resonates in every single solitary dimension in the planet. And you have just discovered the matches, you children.
Yes.
You children.
Yes, it's interesting.
And Oppenheimer has a plaque there. If you ever go there, and if you're going to Roswell, Trinity is about, let's see, about 2.5 hours from Roswell. And you see the plaque, and it says, from the Bhagavad Gita, I am death, the destroyer of worlds, plural. Worlds, not the world, this world, the destroyer of worlds. And that was the Oppenheimer quote you see on the plaque. And then you see this big field where they exploded the bomb. There's a fake city. And you realize, well, yes, it did end the war in the Pacific. The book is so beautiful because Jacques wrote the whole history of the war, the ending of the war and the Japanese side of things and so forth. And when you look at the way he wrote it, you realize that this is more of a history book and less of a UFO book. However,
just to clarify for the listeners, Paola, what is that book again? Just to clarify.
Trinity, the best kept secret.
Yeah, right. Okay. I've got you now. I was just right. That's fine. Yeah. So it's Trinity, the best kept secret we're referring to here. Yes, as as a conscious. You believe that it wasn't an alien UFO crash; it was something to do with consciousness. Have I got that right as well?
It was alien in that those were three little beings. They creatures, call them creatures.
Yes.
But we don't know I don't think those creatures had a mind of their own. I mean, what they're doing is looking at the little boys. The little boys are looking at them for an hour. And the little boys are hearing high screechy noises like they're hurt. Like they're hurt. And I even told Jacques, I said, if you don't believe in time, is it possible that they knew you and I were going to write this book?
A very perceptive comment about
what are we doing here? What are you and I doing here?
Yeah.
What are we doing on the site? How did we get here? I mean, how did we get here? And we're talking to the boys.
Yes.
And a funny little story, when the craft came in, it hit a radio tower. So it left 10 pounds of angel hair, which lit up. And we've come to the conclusion it's fiber optics because the kids took it home. Wow. It was all lit up in pink and purple and green. Wow. And they trimmed the Christmas tree with it.
Good God. So you sorry, Paola, the line broke. Just say again, please.
Well, they picked up 10 pounds of this filament that lit up, and they called it angel hair or spider web that was all lit up in blue, yellow, green, and pink. And what we know today is fiber optics. And they had it in a bag, and they trimmed their Christmas tree with it. And then the village saw it, so they wanted some too. So 1945, all the trees had this fiber optic stuff that the little boys had picked up, at the crash site and put in a bag. So the story has all of these artifacts. They also got the foil, they got the long strips of foil where you crunch them and then they went back.
Yeah.
And they didn't have toys in those days, so they were playing with that.
Yeah.
It's so those are like gifts to humanity. I mean, we're looking at and we're looking at the craft. Somebody had the craft. 70 years later, we find out there was this fiber optic looking angel hair spider web stuff. And,
so, we bypassed Corso's narrative of the Roswell crash providing the fiber optics. And your suspicion is it's actually Trinity that may have provided this then?
Yeah, Tony, that's very perceptive because one of the big criticisms of Corso was that stuff was already in the public domain. Then you have to ask where it came from.
No, absolutely. The other thing about it as well is that I noticed from studying all this that it indicates that the witnesses feared retaliation. And I was going to ask the question, what retaliation and from whom did they fear?
Well, because the older one went in there and took something he wasn't supposed to and hid it in the sheepherder's shack. He hid it under the dirt in the planks in the sheepherder's shack. The army came and said, "Did your kids take anything?" Of course, the father went and said, "Did you guys take anything?" And they said, "Oh, no, we never took anything. We never, And the thing is, they did. They took the bracket that was on the wall. There was a plaque on the wall that had a circle in copper, and this bracket went around and around in the circle. We don't know what it is. The picture is in the book. We don't know. They're measuring it right now. Jacques and his team are measuring and looking at the materials of that thing. But on the last day, the 9-year-old Jose went in with a crowbar and pulled it off the wall as a souvenir. So you think they're not going to be nervous? They're going to be nervous for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And then they, in those days, because of the secrecy of the Manhattan Project, they weren't supposed to be talking about what they saw. And, they thought it was an airplane that had crashed. They couldn't. I mean, there was no UFO anything back in 1945.
Paola, this is absolutely fascinating. One question, a burning question I wanted to ask you was, are you a contact experiencer? Have you met aliens? Have you come across them? Have you had any experiences of that nature?
in Latin America, only in Peru.
In Peru.
Because
wow.
I don't work in the United States anymore very much because it's more of a media entertainment thing here. It's not the people do. Look, this took 9 years, and Jacques and I did 4 years of it together. Keep going back to New Mexico. In fact, I'm going back to New Mexico next week.
Wow.
So the thing is that we worked on this one case, but people don't do that anymore. They don't, they're on TV, they're on YouTube. It becomes a media thing, in other words, movie stars in the media. When I go down to Peru, Tony, I'm in a bed and breakfast in near the mountain of Huascará near Ancash. I see this old lady, and I go into her and I say, "Do you ever see any ETs?" And she said, "Oh, yes." She says, "They come walking down the mountain. They've spoken to my children." I said, yeah. And I say, "You're kidding." And she says, "No." She says, "They're people. They are people. They don't have any little gray aliens in Latin America." And she says, "We're used to living with them. They come from the stars, and they have a base in that mountain." And I'm going, "Oh my God. These people are telling the truth. They don't want to be on TV. They don't want money. They don't write books." And then I go from one person to another, and they tell me about a lake, Lake Titicaca in Bolivia. And that's where I want to be, Tony, because that's where the real story is.
What the lake, Paola?
Lake Titicaca in Bolivia. Yeah, the ships come out of the lake.
Yeah, so they've got a base there. This, listeners, is a commonly known fact that we're seeking out extraterrestrial life, but yet it is a fact and quite a comical joke, really, that they're already here using Earth as bases quite routinely.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're people. They are people. Yeah. I mean, there's men and women, and and the thing is that then Latin America is unique in that they don't make a big deal out of it. It's not a big deal. You just sit there and talk.
You're right.
And you go into the little villages, they smile at you.
Yeah.
They say, "Well, they've been here for thousands of years. We had the Aztec and the Maya." And they, I go, "Okay, well, in America, we didn't have thousands of years of anything. we didn't have visitors from the stars. We just had Betty and Barney Hill case, and
that's right.
We had, Roswell and a couple of things like that. They haven't been here forever because this country is so new."
The Trinity one sounds absolutely marvellous, Paola. In fact, as soon as we finish chatting, I'm going to buy it because I just think this is tremendous. But I'd like to know, in the long career that you've had as an author and as a researcher, apart from the Trinity one, what is the case that really stands out as well that you would talk about and say, "Listen, take a look at this as well. It points to what we're talking about"? What is there some overriding case that you really like?
And Tony, would you get this book? It's called Contact from Planet Apu, APU, and it takes place in Peru, and all of it is real, all of it, because I've been to Peru, Chile. I've been to Ecuador. I've been to Bogota, Colombia, and Argentina. It's called Contact from Planet Apu. It's the story of Ricardo Gonzalez and his contacts.
Yeah.
And you asked me about contact, and that's where I had that. It's in the book.
Yes.
And if you can get that book, it'll change your life because there is an agenda.
Yes,
there's an agenda that these people have, and they're worried about the ecology. And they're worried with the experiments that CERN is doing in Switzerland.
This is absolutely correct. No, this is absolutely correct. In fact, sorry, Paola, carry on.
So that's in there. They've got the ecological problem, which they think is major, especially with the absence of water.
Yeah.
And then he mentioned CERN in Switzerland because he went there, and I think Contact from Planet Apu is, as an experiencer in all experiences, if you ever meet Ricardo Gonzalez, it'll be an honor because he's a great researcher, right. And he has this contact and knows how to write. So, and I was part of that book. Trinity is important because it is a scientific explanation of what happened. And Jacques Vallée, for me, is the greatest researcher in the world. So it was an honor to be with him.
So it took you 9 years to write that. There was a school of thinking, and I just wanted to run this past you. We're going to have him on as a guest. It's a chap who's worked on Hubble and stuff like that. He's a visual analyst. What he doesn't know about stuff that's visual is amazing. He analysed some of my UFO footage and concluded it was not a man-made craft, which it isn't. But the other evening, Paolo, this brings. Just want your take on this. I filmed what can be described as a tic-tac UFO. I've filmed them all my life, coming in low over the rooftops here, like golf ball size type, very white light. I've often seen them. And I consulted with him, and he has a unique take on what this tic-tac is, and I thought, yeah, that makes perfect sense. In that he said that we're not dealing with a spacecraft, we're dealing with an intelligent organism from a higher order. Does that ring any bells with you?
It can't, because I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
So I can't say that's what it is, because I have no experience with it.
Right.
But any explanation is okay. I mean, it's better to try to look at it. It's better to examine it than to ignore it.
Yeah.
So I don't know necessarily. I know that the long cylindrical UFOs usually in the 1950s were motherships, like the one that Adamski is looking out the window of.
Yes.
I mean, that's a mothership.
Yes.
So we can say that's an organism.
Yes.
So I don't know. It's like, I don't know, but may I encourage your listeners to start reading some books of the 1950s, start looking at some contactees from way back when.
Oh, God, yeah.
And don't get all your information from YouTube.
Oh, God, no.
For God's sakes.
Oh, no, I totally agree. No, I totally agree.
No research is done. And in my career, I was a teacher for 40 years. I would never give a grade to one of my students that, said, this is the truth out of YouTube. You have to read. And I really recommend the books that we've been talking about. Of course, I've written 5 books, so they can look me up. I've written 5 books. I've done a lot of cases.
You have.
So, yeah, on my own. But this one with Jacques Vallée is the best book ever.
Well done, you. Have you come across any cases, Paola, where you've sat there and thought that person is lying?
Yeah. A lot of them, yes. That's why. But the only way I can do that, I can't do that on the phone.
Right.
I have to go and see them. I have to go and sit in front of them.
Yes.
The Dan Burrish case was really hard for me. I went to see him 3 times before I did that story.
Yes. Just explain to the listeners. You'll probably do it better than I will, because I had interactions with him as well. Who Dan Burrish is?
Dan Burrish is a microbiologist that was offered to work with a gray being who is not a little gray alien. He said he was a mutation of us because we had a nuclear war. He was more of a time traveler, and he was, fully human-like because he flashed his wife and child into Dan's mind the minute Dan came in. He had agreed to be a guinea pig for the antidote to our mutating ourselves as a species because of the nuclear. And when I met Dan, I had a hard time with the whole story, and I went home. And then I went to see him a second time, and I questioned him some more, but I wasn't sure. So I went home. And then the third time, I asked him enough questions so he began to cry. And I realized he was telling the truth. And I said, okay, let's do this. I said, because this is hard for me, because, I can't swallow these things sometimes, but I promised you I'll do a good job. And I did. And it's in my book. And he really appreciated me.
Yes.
He appreciated that I was honest. I didn't make money off him like everybody else tried to do. I didn't hurt him like everybody else tried to do. I just said, tell me what you did. Because that's what all my books are, word for word interviews. Tell me what you did. Don't tell me what you think it is, Don't tell me what you think is happening. Just tell me what your role is in all of this. And if people want to see my books, Paula, I have 5 of them, and yeah, I mean, they could go on my website, Paola, PaolaHarris, and my books are there, and they're all interviews. So I've had to try to put this together, Tony, just like you. I've had to try to put it together.
Yes, no, I have. I mean, I don't know whether you. I know I have. How there's some of it that I can't talk about. I've had my life, out and I put it, threatened. It's been quite bizarre, actually. The corruption that we see in the unacknowledged special access projects are quite unbelievable, really. And I wondered your thoughts on what I wanted to just sound you out on before we finish our interview with you, which has been great. Is, are UFOs going to be invading us? There's this narrative going on.
No, that's so stupid.
Yeah?
Anybody that has a brain in their head, it's like, why would they do that? To get
Why?
what? Why would they do it? So they could collect all the grain, corn, and cows? And why would they do it? For what reason? I mean, those people say, yes, they're here because they're going to harvest your soul. Why would they want our souls? We're one of the bottom of the barrel in the universe. No. There's none of that. And as far as special access, they've been around forever. I mean, I don't think that's the danger. I think the danger is that people are going to be dumbed down and can't make decisions for themselves.
Yes.
And people are going to be told how to think. And we won't have an educated public, Tony. We need an educated public.
Damn straight we do. Yeah, no, that's very true.
People to sit around and talk and throw ideas back and forth.
Yeah.
Ufology is not a religion. It isn't who you believe in. I mean, they're here, so get over it.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Where did you think then, in your vast experience of research that you have done, where do you think this idea, this wag the dog type story has come from, that UFOs are a threat, a threat? We're looking at a threat. The Russians did it. Senator Reid was quoted in the media as saying the Russians possibly buzzed the Navy ships, which is ridiculous because the Russian special psychic warfare units had contact with ET in about 89. It's fascinating, but I digress. Where do you think they created this from, and why, in your experience?
Well, we're talking 2021. Yeah, we're talking the latest flavor of UFO ice cream. I call it the latest flavor, just like the secret space program was the latest flavor of ice cream. I've interviewed a lot of people that in the military and intelligence community. This planet, I suggest people read or listen to Adamski. Adamski had, yes, George Adamski. He basically had contact with Orthon in the desert. I've been there in California, and Orthon said, look, he said, you've got a new president, Kennedy, that's going to ask you to go out among the stars. He said, if you people switch from a war economy to a space economy like Star Trek, you can make equally as much money. Because there's all kinds of things you have to invent to go to outer space, like Elon Musk is doing right now. He says, but if you stay with the war economy, Orthon said, you're going to have to create the wars. You're going to have to create the wars to boost the economy. So my fear is the only war that we haven't created yet is the space war. And that'll bring money to boost the economy. Now, isn't that sad? Because Orthon also said to Adamski, I want you to go to every leader in the world. In fact, he went to the Queen of Denmark. He went to the British, went everywhere. He said, and tell them that this is a time in the timeline they could switch it over. And if they do, if they have a space economy, because you've got the president that's going to go to the moon there, he says, you'll meet us. You will eventually meet us. Well, we didn't do that. We had one more after another, after another, after another, after another. And so maybe the timeline will come to that position again where we can switch the timeline and switch it from self-destruction into space exploration. Who knows?
Or that will happen. Yeah, that will happen. There's definitely going to be a liaison there. Oh yeah, I totally agree with that one. It just beggars belief what I'm seeing at the moment. And of course, there's this conflict going on with Elizondo and Dr. Stephen Greer, where Greer's saying, well, these UFOs, these beings are evolved, and Elizondo is saying that they're a threat. What's your take on them two? You maybe can't say, but are you suspicious?
That's become a media thing. Elizondo's been on Ancient Alien. When you look at where they are, they become media stars and they're paid and they have agents. Okay, the problem with Lou Elizondo is he presented a case in Italy that I was familiar with. The last thing that he did was say that the Italians had an incident where a UFO had shot at a helicopter. Well, I happen to know everybody in that particular episode of Ancient Aliens, and that wasn't true because I had been briefed by the admiral in the thing. That admiral, Claude Bruno Vetruccio, actually took me to the admiralty in Rome, sat with me, and told me, no aliens shot at any helicopter. But that was Elizondo who told everybody that, that's what the Italian. No, because the helicopter just had blades that were melted and the pilot walked out. He was alive. So that is not a threat. One little thing that they used to go to Senator Reid. So I'm going, because I had been in Italy and I said, where did these guys stay? And they said, well, they didn't stay in the Ritz Hotel. They stayed in an army barracks. Well, they're looking for stuff. I mean, so I was very clear about that episode. So it's you got to look at the agenda. I don't think that Lou himself, Elizondo, believes they're a threat. He doesn't believe they're a threat, but he probably believes in disclosure. And what disclosure means is being open about all the files. If there was a threat, my God, I mean, they would have done it a long time ago.
Oh, you're not wrong.
I can tell you one story that'll give you an idea.
Go ahead.
You said your life was threatened. Well, the only time, actually, I had 2 car bombs. In Italy, I had a problem. But the only time they broke into my house in Italy on Viale degli Ammiragli was when I was interviewing Guy Andronic, who was a French geophysicist on the Bikini Atoll. And he was there testing the H-bomb. And the French did 800 H-bomb tests, 800. And they had UFO flyovers. And there was 3 feet of dead fish on the runway, and they killed the coral. Of course, America did 1,300 in the Atlantic, and India did a few H-bomb tests. Do you honestly think when we're killing fish and coral that these craft are flying over the islands and just saying, hey, we're watching your insanity, that they wouldn't have done it then?
Yeah.
And they came in and they took the film footage and they took 20,000 euro of everything I had in the house when I did that story. But I was able to get him later on because I need the actual witnesses that see the UFOs that do nothing except fly over when we're killing fish, coral, everything else on the planet. So tell me, what would cause them to come and be a threat? What exactly would cause them to change their minds all of a sudden? And
yes, because they're not a threat. That's the thing. They're evolved. They're not a threat. It's very interesting area, and I just couldn't help but notice my ears pricked up when you said was the effect of Senator Reid was given one UFO hostile so-called incident. Did I hear that right?
No, because he and Tom DeLonge were going around looking for incidents of hostile activity.
Yeah.
Because I think Tom thinks they're demons or something. I mean, it's like, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, they were looking, and Italy they picked the wrong place because I had just been there and I just talked to the people. So I'm watching TV with all my friends there and I'm going, are you kidding me? And I'm going, Lou, what are you doing? Why are you on the Ancient Aliens? Look, anybody that's on Ancient Aliens or any of these TV shows that are media shows, are more media stars. They are not researchers. Researchers don't go on these. Researchers are researching. They're not going on a show. You don't go to South America and you see people that really have contact and you see them on TV.
This is true. This is true.
And they're usually in the back room talking to the powers that be. They're usually, they could be consulting, but they don't say, let me go on, these big shows. And, of course they're paid. So, you got to be careful what the latest flavor, I call it the latest flavor of UFO ice cream is. Before that, it was a secret space program.
Yeah.
So every year we have a flavor of ice cream.
Yes.
But do people know that in New Year's Eve, and I'm very good friends with Demi Lovato, the singer. New Year's Eve, there were more sightings during the fireworks, and I collected them all. And they were not watching fireworks, the ETs. They wanted to be seen, and they knew you were looking up at the skies. So Demi Lovato takes this incredible video of a UFO in Hollywood over her house. Then this friend of mine, Hans von Tour in Le Hague, has incredible video as he's watching fireworks. And then in Italy, I get downtown Rome, this incredible UFO while everybody's watching fireworks. I'm going, oh, that's the real story, not the secret space program, but they know you're going to look at the sky when there's fireworks, and they're gonna say, hi, hello, we're here.
Yeah.
So I collected all these videos, Tony. It's really cool. This year, 2021.
So the thing is with it, Paola, is the fact that these ETs are more than capable of knocking on my door and taking a selfie with me, and not a lot of people know that. But my question is one of elusiveness. In your experience, why are they so goddamn elusive? Because it is like that. They're using bases here, and you could easily take a selfie with one of them. Why the elusiveness from them?
Well, because we would create a religion around it.
Right.
We don't need another religion.
No.
And they're not the gods. It's not the return of the gods, know. I mean, in the old days, it's, look at ancient aliens. No, it's just other civilizations that are a bit more evolved. They're not the gods. They're not religion. They're just, we might be related to them, Tony. I have no idea. I mean, it could be more complex than we think.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I just know that I love doing the work, that I'll do it the best I can. It's been hard for women in this field.
Yes.
And I thank Jacques Vallée with all my heart for contributing to the book, because he's the one that wrote it. He's an elegant writer, beautiful writer, poetic. And I suggest that people that want a real case with a real message, read Trinity. Okay,
absolutely. And what are your other books there, Paolo, that you could recommend? Because you've written a few. My goodness, you have.
Exopolitics, Stargate to a New Reality. I've got Connecting the Dots.
Yeah.
Making Sense of the UFO phenomena. I've got Conversations with Colonel Corso.
Yeah.
And the one with the Latin America is called All the Above and Beyond.
Oh, wow. But the one question I'm going to ask, just in closing, and you deserve a medal. Thank you, honey, for coming on. I know you've been feeling under the weather. But the book that intrigues me is the one, How Does One Speak to a Ball of Light? I think it was. Now, I've had that going on.
It's all on orbs and orb phenomena.
Yeah.
That case that Elizondo used had that, because these balls of light were coming out of Sicily. Were coming out of the water. It was called Caronia, and the houses the houses would get on fire. But the houses got on fire because they're also testing exotic weapons there, and the UFOs are watching them. So of course they're coming out of the water.
Yes, right. Do you think there's a maritime element to them, Paolo? Then do you think there's a maritime? As do I. I think there's a maritime element to them, akin to the movie The Abyss.
Absolutely. Well, yes.
We're right there. Thank you for that.
Cameron, when I saw that movie. But James Cameron, I think,
Yes.
I think he's been talked to.
Yeah.
James Cameron, yes, absolutely the abyss. But remember, that was about nuclear too.
It was.
That was about you guys are going to kill each other. You want to do that, or do you want to stop it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I know the UFO that I filmed the other night. I know that at the height of trying to care and look after my mother, who had dementia, when I was being targeted and having all this go on, and these ETs literally said to me that they were from bases from the oceans of this planet, and they came from another parallel universe which had water, and they could flash between the two. I think, Paola, there's great hope for humanity here. I really do, but we've got to get our heads around it, haven't we, as you rightly say. You've been a tremendous guest, and thank you very much indeed for appearing on my show.
Well, thank you, and thank you for asking all the right questions, Tony.
Oh, it's very. I'll take that. I'll take that as a compliment because I hold you in some regard, hon. So I will take that as a compliment. Thank you very much indeed. And just again, remind the listeners of your website, Paola.
www.paolaharris.com and www.starworksusa.com because I produce a conference every year. And then Trinity, we have a website for that. It's trinitysecret.com.
I will plug that, lovely, trinitysecret.com. Absolutely great. Thank you, Paola, for all your time and coming on as a guest. I really appreciate it. This has been Alien Confidential. We'll catch you next week.